What happens when an emperor sees himself as a god, a gladiator, and a ruler with absolute power but no sense of responsibility? You get one of the most notorious rulers in Roman history, Commodus. His reign wasn't just bad, it was an embarrassment to the Roman Empire. While Rome had seen cruel and incompetent rulers before, Commodus took depravity to a whole new level. You may have heard of emperors like Nero or Caligula, but Commodus made them look almost reasonable in comparison. He was obsessed with violence, corruption, and self-indulgence, and his rule pushed Rome toward disaster. So, why was Commodus considered one of the most depraved emperors in history? Stay till the end, because today we're breaking down 10 shocking reasons that prove just how unfit he was to rule. 1. He thought he was a god. Most Roman emperors claimed to have divine connections, but Commodus took it to a ridiculous level. He believed he was the reincarnation of Hercules, and even had statues of himself made in the hero's likeness. He walked around Rome wearing a lion skin and carried a club just like Hercules. Not only did he force people to worship him, but he even renamed Rome after himself, calling it Colonia Commodiana. Imagine the arrogance of thinking you deserve to rename one of the greatest cities in history after yourself. 2. He loved killing animals for sport. Gladiator fights were common in Rome, but Commodus took the bloodshed to a bizarre level. Instead of just watching, he liked to participate against animals. He would step into the arena, armed with a bow or a spear, and slaughter lions, elephants, and even giraffes. These weren't battles. They were staged massacres. The people of Rome were forced to watch their emperor act like a butcher instead of a ruler. It was a disturbing obsession that showed just how detached he was from reality. 3. He turned the Senate into a joke. The Roman Senate was supposed to be a council of experienced leaders who helped govern the empire. Under Commodus, it became a place of humiliation and fear. He had senators executed for fun and replaced them with his friends and sycophants. He didn't just ignore political duties. He actively mocked them. He forced high-ranking officials to dress like slaves and even made them fight in gladiator games. His actions didn't just insult the Senate. They weakened Rome's entire government. 4. He bankrupted the empire. Rome had been a wealthy empire for centuries, but Commodus had no interest in maintaining its financial stability. He wasted enormous amounts of money on extravagant parties, ridiculous gladiator games, and self-glorifying monuments. He devalued Roman currency by cutting down the amount of silver in coins, causing inflation to spiral out of control. His reckless spending left the economy in ruins, making life harder for ordinary citizens. 5. He declared himself a gladiator. It wasn't just animals Commodus fought. He forced people to watch him battle human opponents, too. But these weren't real fights. His opponents were often injured, unarmed, or simply terrified to hit the emperor. Despite being emperor, he saw himself as a champion of the arena. He even demanded to be paid as a gladiator, which was an insult to both the profession and the empire. The idea of an emperor fighting as a gladiator was disgraceful, but Commodus loved the attention. 6. He abandoned military affairs. Rome's strength had always come from its powerful army, but Commodus had no interest in military campaigns. He left the empire's defense to his corrupt officials while he indulged in personal pleasures. This negligence led to chaos along Rome's borders. Enemies saw Rome's weakness and took advantage of it. Instead of leading his army, Commodus spent his time pretending to be Hercules and fighting in stage battles. 7. He had no regard for human life. Commodus executed people for entertainment. He had citizens, senators, and even his own family members killed on a whim. His paranoia made him see enemies everywhere, and instead of ruling with wisdom, he ruled with terror. One of his most infamous acts was ordering a massacre of the disabled and sick, claiming they were useless. His lack of humanity made him one of the most feared rulers in Roman history. 8. He humiliated Rome's elite. Not only did Commodus kill his enemies, but he also humiliated Rome's noble families. He took their property, forced them into degrading situations, and publicly mocked them. He even had high-ranking women work as servants at his lavish parties, making them serve food and wine like slaves. His goal was to remind everyone that he had absolute power, and no one was safe from his cruelty. 9. He tried to rename the empire after himself. It wasn't enough for Commodus to rename Rome. He wanted to rename the entire Roman Empire. He proposed calling it Commodiana, and he made sure his name was engraved on monuments, temples, and coins. This act showed his complete self-obsession. He wanted to erase centuries of history and replace it with his own delusions of greatness. 10. His own people assassinated him. Eventually, even those closest to Commodus had enough. His behavior had turned the empire into a disaster, and his advisors feared for their own lives. A plot was formed, and in the year 192 AD, Commodus was assassinated. His own wrestling partner, Narcissus, strangled him in his bath, putting an end to one of Rome's most disgraceful reigns. After his death, Rome tried to erase his memory. His statues were destroyed, and his name was removed from official records. The Senate even declared him a public enemy. That's how much they hated him. Commodus wasn't just a bad emperor. He was a symbol of everything that could go wrong when absolute power falls into the hands of someone completely unfit to rule. His reign was a bizarre mix of self-worship, cruelty, and reckless decision-making that pushed Rome toward instability. While many emperors before him had been ruthless, Commodus was different. He wasn't just brutal, he was foolish. He treated the empire like his personal playground, ignoring responsibilities while indulging in his gladiator fantasies. His obsession with himself reached delusional levels, declaring himself Hercules, renaming Rome after himself, and demanding the people worship him as a god weren't just signs of arrogance. They were signs of a ruler who had lost touch with reality. It's no wonder that, in the end, even his closest allies saw him as a threat to Rome's survival. But what made him truly dangerous was his complete disregard for Rome's institutions. The Senate, the military, and the economy. He weakened them all. He replaced experienced leaders with corrupt officials, drained Rome's wealth on pointless luxuries, and abandoned the empire's defenses, while enemies waited for the perfect moment to strike. His recklessness wasn't just an embarrassment. It was a serious blow to Rome's power. By the time he was assassinated, Rome was already on the path to decline. His death didn't fix the damage he had caused. In fact, the chaos that followed his murder showed just how much he had destabilized the empire. Rome had survived bad emperors before, but Commodus wasn't just bad. He was the beginning of the end. Historians often mark his rule as the point where the Roman Empire started crumbling. The fact that Rome tried to erase his memory tells us everything. His statues were destroyed, his name was scratched off official records, and the Senate declared him a public enemy. Even the people who had tolerated him during his reign were eager to forget him once he was gone. That's how much damage he did. So, what do you think? Was Commodus the worst emperor in Roman history? Or do you think another ruler deserved that title? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to like this video, share with others who love history, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. There's a lot more to uncover from history's most notorious rulers, and you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.